Precisely. Okay, so last class we spoke a little bit about the body and the soul, how they work together. We're going to spend this class looking at what my Rosh Yeshiva used to call the least studied Rambam in all of the Torah, because it's all about physical health and treatment. And the Rambam was a doctor. It seems, we're not sure because he does not source the Mishnah Torah. He doesn't give us the Makorot for what he's about to say. Some of it seems to be, and he does quote sometimes a verse from Tehillim or from Shlomo HaMelech somehow, but he does not otherwise tell us where it's from. Some of it may just be his own personal work as a doctor where he gets this stuff from. But what he's going to do is, we're in the laws of conduct, Hilchot Deyot, and he's going to talk about the importance and the mitzvah of treating your body well. Because it is a mitzvah to treat your body well. We said already that the body, the guf, is the kli. It's the vessel for the neshama. The guf also, since it has a proximity to the soul, it has inherent kedusha. It has inherent worth and value. Not just because it is a pile of meat that schleps you around, but also because of the holy work that it has to help the neshama fulfill its mission in this world. It has an inherent holiness, which is why we have to treat the body well in life and in death, which is why we bury the body and do not, lo aleinu, cremate it. It has to be treated with respect, okay? But let's talk about the Rambam's writings, and as I mentioned before, no one ever taught me this as a kid. There's a lot he writes on the body and physical health. I've just taken choice pieces that apply to us today. But he actually has a book of remedies, which I have at home. He's got a lot of stuff written. Happens to be the stuff over here. Well, you know what? You can judge it for yourself. Let's start on page 9.
When you say, sorry if you said this already, when you say proximity, do you mean like literal proximity?
Yeah, the body, that's very close to each other. Well, they hold, the body holds the soul inside it. Just like the shoe holds the body. We're going to look at this, a very famous statement when we discuss reincarnation in a few weeks. Just as the shoe holds the body holds the soul. It is contained within it. We mentioned that last class, actually. Yeah?
Is this part of the, not eating food that's going to make you stupid?
We're going to make you stupid? No, that's kashrut. When we get to kosher, we'll talk about why kosher food is metamtem et halev. It blocks you from wisdom. No. This is nothing to do with kosher. A person can keep kosher and still eat the most unhealthy foods and live an extremely unhealthy lifestyle. The Rambam is going to tell us this is asur. It is forbidden. If the Rambam walked into most kosher supermarkets today, he'd be like, they're kosher, but they're forbidden to be eaten. Okay, let's have a look inside. So he starts like this. Yasim alibo, a person has to put inside their hearts, follow inside. She'er gufo shalem, your body has to be whole. Body has to be whole. V'chazak, and strong. Why? So you can join a bodybuilding competition? No! Kedei, in order. Shetien nafsha. So your soul, so he's attaching body and soul together. So your soul can be yeshara, straight. The way you treat your body is going to impact your soul. Ledat, so that you know et Hashem, so you can know God. She'if shar, it is impossible. These are the words of the Rambam. I'm looking at black and white. Shistakel b'chokhmat, that a person become wise, v'hu ra'ev, and you're hungry, v'chala, and sick, or echad me'avarav koev, or one of your limbs hurts you. You're not going to be able to do your mission in this world if your body is not shalem, whole, healthy, good. Did they teach this? They never taught us in yeshiva when I was growing up. Right? It was all about Torah and the Soul. I went to a very Haredi yeshiva. Right? In my yeshiva, there was hardly a sports department, and we used to play soccer all day anyway, but it wasn't taken seriously. Rambam's like, no, it's impossible to have a connection to Hashem, he's about to say, if your body is not shalem and feeling good. Ad shegufo shalem v'lavot Hashem. Your body is there to help your soul worship God. And he goes on. V'afilu b'sha'a shu yashen. Even while you are sleeping. While you're sleeping, you're actually worshipping God. While you're what is sleep? You're resting your body. Im yashen, if your motivation is to sleep, ledat, kedei shetanoch dato, so you can calm your mind and your health. By the way, lack of sleep, we now know very clearly from science, is going to affect everything else. It's going to affect your general health, your weight, your mind processes. It's crucial. He's actually going to tell you how long you should sleep, by the way. So you think to yourself, you know what, I'm sleeping so that I can rest my body, so that I can serve Hashem. You are doing a mitzvah. That's what he says. So while you're sleeping, you're actually doing a good act, because you're saying, I'm sleeping so that I can know God and keep my body healthy. Because if you are sick, lo yachol lavod et Hashem, right? And sleep is a major part of that. Thus, your sleep, while you sleep, you're actually serving Hashem. You're doing a mitzvah while you sleep. If your motivation is that your sleep is always going to be for the right reasons. Hoyil, because, since, v'yot haguf bari, maintaining a healthy bari is healthy body, v'shalem, midarach Hashem is one of the ways to know God. How do you know God? Through a healthy guf, a healthy body. Yeah?
Yeah, so what about the tzaddikim that sleep for 2 hours a night?
Okay. According to the Rambam, you could be the biggest tzaddik, but you sleep for 2 hours a night, you're not fulfilling your mission in this world. Are they able to be healthy and well with 2 hours a night? I can't relate to that, but that's not the Rambam. I'm just reading what the Rambam says. The Rambam is saying you have to sleep 8 hours a night. He's going to say that in a second. You've got to sleep 8 hours a night. Are the people out to sleep less than that? Possibly, but he's giving a general rule of how to take care of yourself. Okay? I have never met such a person who's able to sleep. I've heard, but I've never met such a person who's able to sleep 2 hours a night. I mean, they do say that David HaMelech hardly slept, but they say that his sleep was spread out throughout the day. He was able to get little naps right here and there. Based upon Yaakov Avinu, who also didn't sleep at the time, but it means that he slept at periodic times, so a small amount of times. Maybe they added up to 8 hours. I don't know. Okay, but that's not for us. You need 8 hours a night. All right, Sarah? Yeah. Okay. So he says, because it's impossible, he says, to know God. You're sick. While you're sick, you may be praying, but you're not being able to fulfill your life mission, right, in terms of your learning and your conduct. If you're sick the whole time, you're worrying about how am I going to get sick, I'm going to get better. You don't. It's not a life, not a quality of life. Lefikach, therefore, tzarich, you are obligated. Laharchik adam atzma. You should separate yourself. By the way, put your hands up if you've learned this piece before. No one's ever learned this Rambam? Oh my God, so important. Such an important Rambam, it's wild. Tzarich laharchik adam. A person has to separate themselves, atzma, midvarim, from things, hama'abdin et aguf, that harm your body. These aren't just dangerous things, right? These are things that could potentially harm your body by what you eat and how you treat your body, how you exercise, how you use the bathroom. He's going to talk a lot about bathroom visits, by the way. Et aguf lahagigas, a person has to manhig themselves, to conduct themselves, b'devarim, in ways, hamavarin, that are going to keep you healthy, v'amachalem ve'elohen, and going to keep your body stronger. And what are they? So he's going to tell us. And these are the general rules of health. Liolam, never. Lo yachal adam ela kashur re'ev. Don't emotionally eat. I guess what you call it today's language. Emotional eating is not good. Eat while you are hungry. You don't have to be starving hungry, but before you eat, you should make sure that you need to be a little bit hungrier. Person does not get hungry, then they probably have to, fair question, then it has to be a routine, Has to be a routine, because everyone's got to eat, right? I mean, a person doesn't eat, they die, right? Which is, I'm not just being facetious, we're going to see that food and drink are the key ingredient that keep body and soul together. You can give up many physical vices and still be alive. Food and drink, this all goes back, we're going to see, to Adam and Chava that sinned with food. And the laws of kashrut are going to be connected to that concept. Kashrut is connected to this concept. But this is healthful eating, right? Of how to do it in a responsible way. Don't be over drinking. He's not just talking alcohol, by the way. And do not delay your nekavav. What a nekavav? We say nekavim, chalolim. After going to the bathroom, do not delay going to the bathroom for even a moment. That is a mitzvah. That's how to make going to the bathroom a mitzvah. Afilu rega achad, ella, kol zman, shetzarech lashtin, or lasek reglav, as soon as you need to use the bathroom or urinate, yamod miyad, go do it immediately. The Rambam is going to mention this a bunch of times, and this is actually based upon the Gemara. The Gemara says that health in general is based upon a regular bowel movement. Okay? By the way, as a side point, it is forbidden to pray if you need the bathroom. Right? It's bal tashak, so you should not pray in the bathroom. Well, that's actually to defecate. If you need to urinate, you may be able to actually, as a side point. Okay, but you need to use the bathroom, you should do it straight away. Okay, number 2. We're on page 10. Lo yachal adam, a person should not eat ad shetimalek reso, until they are stuffed full. And by the way, the Vilna Gaon adds to this, interestingly, even on Shabbat. You should have better foods and delicious foods on Shabbat as the mitzvah, but he says people mistake that to think they should stuff themselves. There is no mitzvah ever to stuff yourself. Right? You know when you finish off your chillin and you're lying there and you can't move, you're like, oh, I can't move. Okay? That is not recommended. According to the Rambam, it's probably a problem. Right? As the famous joke of Avad Yosef is, Mish ochel chulent b'Shabbat, whoever eats chulent to Shabbat, chayav mita. That was the joke. Chayav mita means liable for the death penalty, means the chayav to go to bed. Mita is bed as well, because it makes you sleepy. It's called stuporific. It's a good English word, that. Foods that make you sleepy. Stuporific. Okay, enough of that. So he says a person should not eat till they're completely full. So how much should a person eat? Until they are revia mitzvato, until they're about 3/4 full. I'm not sure exactly how to gain that precise amount, but that is how much. By the way, do you know how big your stomach is? A regular stomach? I think even one fistful. So that means probably your average meal should be 3/4 of a fist amount of food. It's not much. It's probably not that much, to be honest with you. Okay. How about drinking? Don't drink too much while you are eating during the meal. Elamat, a little bit, umazog biyayin. Now, this may sound unusual to you, but people used to mix wine into their water, or actually mix water into their wines. Right? Wine used to be one of the main liquids that people would drink during a meal. It may still be for many of you, but it can't be because most of you are under 21. But that means you've never tasted wine before. Oh, that must be difficult. Yeah, that's right. Nice try. Okay? So he says, when should you actually drink? He says, rather, you should not drink much water, but even when the food is digested. But he says, after the meal, he's going to say you should drink water to wash down the meal itself. Okay? Then he says, a person should, and this is actually the next piece I know is from a Gemara. The Gemara says, actually quotes in very cryptic fashion, the Gemara says it, but he gives it to us in, a person should not eat until they've checked they need to go to the bathroom. Okay? Now, if I remember correctly, he mentions a bunch of times you need to check where they need the bathroom. Before and after you sleep, before and after you eat, before and after you bathe. Bless you. That's 6 times. And there's another few times as well, I don't remember. Okay? So that's what you should do. You should not eat until you relieve yourself. I think the Gemara says you shouldn't put something into the oven until you've taken out that which was previously in the oven. Ever heard that before? I think that's a Gemara that quotes this idea as well. Okay? And he says, you should, let's You should do something before you eat to warm up your body. You should do a little exercise before you eat in order that your body should, it doesn't say much, could be just a stroll, could be walking daled amot, by the way. Right? Even walking 6 steps may be sufficient for this, but you should warm your body up before you eat. You shouldn't just lie in bed and have breakfast in bed. Okay? Or in some other way. And that's why he says, your main exercise, it's a very famous discussion, should your main exercise be in the morning, the afternoon, or the evening? Well, he's going to say exercise at any time is good, but the best time for exercise, says the Rambam, interestingly, is in the morning. That's when the best time for exercise, a sweat-producing task, is in the morning. And people used to do that. By the way, just to understand, for you, exercise means, going to the gym or going to, a spin class. Your ancestors didn't do that, right? They weren't like working in a factory, pounding sheets of metal. They're like, oh, got 1 hour break, I'm going to spin class. It wasn't like that, you know what I'm saying? Their work, for the most part, involved a lot of actions. They weren't sitting doing nothing, well, not doing nothing, but not sitting, on a chair doing their work. That was rare. Most people had to do something in order to do their work, okay? So it means you should do something before, and some physical action before you start your day. Yeah?
The wine thing, was he saying it's good to drink water?
He is going to talk, he does talk about wine, and he does say that wine is good for the body. He actually says, where I live it's forbidden. Where was he writing that forbade wine? In Egypt. He lived in Egypt, and he says, although the Mohammedans make it forbidden to drink wine, he says, actually, wine is very, very good for you. Okay, so there's a discussion. Nowadays, they used to say that wine is good, and a little bit of wine is good. I think the level of wine, the type of wine, is a lot more alcoholic than it used to be, and they used to water down the wine considerably, but he actually says that wine is good for your body in moderation.
Like after the meal, right?
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so a person should do some exercise, they should bathe in hot water, and then they should wait, and then they should eat. That is the way you should be doing it. Okay, a little bit of exercise, even a little bit, just to get your body warmed up before you eat, and obviously make sure that you have gone to the bathroom. Okay, he's going to talk about constipation, by the way, is one of the things that keep you sick all the time. You got to fix that. Before you fix anything, you got to fix that. Okay, now he's going to tell you how to eat. And by the way, he's writing this in the Mishnah Torah, the same law book that discusses the laws of Yom Kippur and Purim and Shabbat and Shemitah and every other mitzvah. It's fascinating that he actually put this in the same book. This is from the Mishnah Torah. It's just fascinating. Liolam, he says, Kishiochal Adam, when a person eats, Yeshev bimkomo, you shall eat while you are seated. This is why you see many rabbis get very upset when they go to like a smorgasbord at a wedding and people are walking around with their plates, like piling on the sushi, which I gave up, by the way. That stuff's poison, right? Just the rice, all that sticky, sugary wine in it is also very bad for you. Sorry. Whatever, that's just me. You can eat it, you're young. Okay? But people walk around and eating that. The Rambam says you can't do that. He says you shouldn't do that. Walk around eating. You should be sitting down while you eat, and you should recline on your left. Yeah. Why on your left? Because, well, we see it on Pesach. Pesach we recline because we are free people. B'nei Chorin, we're free people. But leaning on your right would be good as well. So he says leaning on your left because there's some kind of like physical manifestation, some kind of like throat thing. I think your windpipe, when you're on your right, it opens it up, or somehow the organs that need for digestion are being pressured. Therefore, you should lean on your left. But that's a general health advice, not just to be from people. But why are you leaning at all? Why are you leaning? Why can't you be like, like us, sitting upright? That's how we mostly eat, right? Anyone know the answer to that question? Well, it used to be that people didn't sit on upright chairs. That's a relatively, new invention. People used to recline on, I guess, like a a low sofa when they would eat. And they would have little mini tables that were brought to them. And they would actually eat recline. We see it in Middle Eastern countries, but that's the way most people used to eat in the old days. And I guess it changed. It became an upright chair. He's not in favor of that, but I guess that's what we do. Okay? Okay, so that's how you should eat as well. Okay. Now he's going to talk about the importance of sleep. Hayom v'halayla chav daled sha'ot. We know the day and night is a 24-hour period. Daila Adam, it is sufficient, lishon shlishan, a third of that. What's a third of 24? 8 hours is what you need. Okay? And by the way, I think modern scientists say 8 hours is actually the sweet spot. All right? More than that is not good for you, and much less than that is not so good either. Maybe a little less than that, but that's what you want to go for. Okay, so this habit of going to bed at 3 in the morning and waking up and oh, I'm exhausted, I've done it for midterm, it's not good. That's not what the Rambam wants from you. He says that's a third of your life should be spent asleep. And my classes, by the way, are not part of that third, just so you know. They should be spent awake. Spent awake. Okay? And he says, and they should be at the end of the night. You should ideally, now we don't do this nowadays, okay? You should actually wake up with the sun. The sun used to be there, because people used to live in the dark. They didn't have candles that were all night, right? They literally, and as the sun came up, they kind of rose. So your 8 hours would kind of end with the rising of the sun for many, many people. That's just the way it was, because that was the only light that was available after, 8 hours of sleep, because I guess your fires are out. Okay? They should be at the end of the night, so there is 8 hours from the beginning of sleep until sunrise. And you should rise from your bed before sunrise. Okay? You should greet the sun with your awake. Now we have, light bulbs and filaments and, LEDs, so we kind of lost that. We've lost the sight of night and day. Right? It's all light, and that's about it. That's not great. How should a person sleep? The Rambam is even interested in that. One should not sleep face down or on his back, but on the side. That's what he says. Who is sleeping? My wife sleeps on her back, actually. You don't sleep on their back? Who's a back sleeper? I don't know if it's so good for you, brother. I think it forces your windpipe back. But I'm not judging. I'm just saying. My wife sleeps on her back. Some people sleep on their front. And some people sleep with one leg protruding. Right? Always have one leg protruding. A blanket on your entire body, boiling hot. Right? No blanket, freezing cold. You want just one leg out. That's perfect. Just to get the temperature right. Isn't that amazing? It's always one leg sticking out. He says actually the best way to sleep. I once had I mentioned this in class, and I had a doctor who was in a class, and he actually liked this idea. He said this is good as well. But he says you want to begin your night on one side, and then you want to finish it on the other side. You want to kind of flip over like a, like a bagel. You're like boop, boop on both sides. You want to toast both sides. You want to kind of be on your left, he says, at the beginning of the night, and the right side. I don't know, I'm all over the place. But that's what you want. You want to sleep on your side. I think it's because otherwise you're pushing your organs too much. You want to give your organs a rest. Otherwise it's too much pressure. Yeah?
I actually did learn that.
You did learn that? Where?
That specific part, I don't remember.
Oh, in the Rambam, you're saying?
I learned about the left and right.
In science or in Torah?
In Torah.
Oh, in Torah class. Okay, great. Yeah. Okay. Now this next part is very important, and I think that all these ideas are important today as well, but this part is a big one, and that is, you should not eat before you go to sleep. Now there's interesting machloket between the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch, Rav Yosef Karo, who actually have a different time frame. He says you should wait 3 to 4 hours from your last meal before you go to sleep. You should go to sleep hungry. You should go to sleep hungry. A little, not starving hungry, but you shouldn't be, when you go to sleep and you've just eaten a lot, and that's when I start to get heartburn, you know what I'm saying? So he does not like, he says, don't do that. And and a person should not oversleep during the day. You can have a little rest during the day, but he said you should not make the daytime your principal sleeping time. There are people who have nighttime jobs, and they say they sleep during the day, and they say it's very difficult. Their sleep, even if you're getting, it's just a different kind of sleep. Right? Those people who stay up, I stay up one night a year, right? And that is, Shavuot. And you sleep in the morning, it's not the same. It doesn't give you that, But you should not eat before 3 fasts. I think the Shulchan Aruch already, I think he says 1 to 2 hours. He reduces the time. I don't know why that is. I never really looked into it. But the Rambam goes, he's kind of strict with this, and he says 3 to 4 hours. Okay. As you know, we Jews are not vegans or vegetarians. You're allowed to be a vegan and a vegetarian, but the Jewish world is set up for meat eating. So he's going to talk about meat right now. Okay, so if you're a vegan or vegetarian, you can skip this part because you skip it every day anyway, right? And he says, "Kishya dam lechol basar of or basar behema." If you have a choice or a selection of meats on the meat platter on your Shabbat table or wherever it is, which one should you eat first? Poultry or meat? Go on. The chicken, the poultry. Lighter meat first. Okay? You want to eat poultry and meat in one sitting, eat the poultry first. Similarly, if you're going to eat eggs and then chicken, you eat the eggs first. If you want to eat both meat of small cattle and large cattle, right, you should eat the meat of the small one first. I.e., he says, a person should always eat the lighter fare and then the heavier fare afterwards. And I think the answer is, if you eat the heavier foods, your stomach's working to digest that, and you're kind of like adding the lighter fare on top. It's not good. So eat lighter food, he says, and then heavier foods. Right? There are a few books that came out of the diets of the Rambam. Right? One of my friends actually just came out with it. He called me recently about it. And there's a bunch of them out there. You could buy those books, or you could just, read the Rambam himself. Okay? And he says like this. And let me give you a principle. He says. He says the general principle is, as long as you take care of your physical well-being, you exercise. And by the way, I didn't bring it down over here. I don't know why I didn't bring it down. But he says that exercise is defined as weak or strong movements that increase your breathing. So I hear a strong movement, I'm running, or me personally, I'm a big tennis player and now a pickleball player, which is the best sport. Also the fastest growing sport in America. You know that? Can't get enough of it, right? These things are vigorous sports, but also there are weak sports, if you will, or activities that also increase breathing, like yoga. I'm not a big yoga, but they say that when a person finishes a yoga, at the end of it, which is a real stretch, at the end they're like out of breath, right? It really, anyone does yoga over here? I want to point out something to you. And I received this from my Rosh Hashiva, but I think it's been true. Everyone needs to exercise at least 3 times a week. I mean, ideally every day, but at least 3 times a week. Okay? This 10-step thing that they have on the watches, I believe that to be arbitrary. I don't believe that's enough for most people. It's good, better than no steps. You know what I'm saying? It's something, but it's an arbitrary amount. You need to build yourself up in order to produce a sweat, but if not, at least to increase your breathing. That's what you need to be doing. You need to do it 3 to 4 times a week. That, my friends, is a mitzvah. Okay? I remember when I got to yeshiva, my yeshiva said, a lot of you boys are going to be masmidim, and you're going to sit, you're going to learn all day, and no exercise. He says, you're making a mistake. Close your books and go outside and play basketball, which I personally cannot stand, so I never played it. Don't like playing it, and I don't like watching it. But running and doing those things, all very, very good. Okay? So if you exercise and you exert yourself and you don't eat your fill and you have a loose bowel, okay, he says you will not get sick. He has a very holistic view of all of this, and he's going to even give you a guarantee of this, but there is a caveat that comes with it, and you'll grow in strength even if you eat harmful foods. He actually says you get away with eating harmful foods, which, by the way, do you know how he defines a harmful food? He says flour that is fried. He says, you can get away with that. What do we call that? A donut. Right? That's what a donut is, isn't it? Right? Any flour, right? Or a, I don't know, pancakes or something. He says, you'll get away with that as long as you don't eat them too much, don't make them part of your staple, and you do the other things that go with it. Okay? Are we good so far? Remember, this is the Rambam, not the Ramban. They're going to look at the Ramban in a second. However, he says, we're on page 12. Let's finish it off. Again, this is just a selection. I want to give you just a bit of an outline. V'chol mishu yoshev lebetach, a person who sits idly, ve'enu mit'amel, and they do no exercise. Or mi she meshahe negavev, or a person who doesn't move their bowels when they need to, right? Or mi shema'av kashin, or they're constipated. Afilu achal machalotov, even if you eat good foods, v'shematzma al pi refuah, and you follow the doctor's orders, kol imav yeh mekovim b'kochav tashash, you're going to feel weak and gross and in pain, right? You're going to have ka'ev, and you're going to feel weak. And we already said, one of the ways to worship God is through keeping your body healthy. Now we know what he's talking about, the way you eat and what you drink and how you sleep and how much you sleep. All this is important. And look what he says. This is a very famous Rambam. This kind of question you're going to get in your midterm. He says, you know what's poison to your body? Poison. He actually calls it a sam mavet. A poison of death is to achila gasa, overeating. He says, most physical illnesses that we have come from overeating. That's what he says. It's the main source of illnesses, the Rambam. Incredible, right? Incredible piece of Torah. Most illnesses which afflict a person are caused by harmful foods or by filling your body with them by overeating. Even overeating healthy foods. He's one who says, like, it's better to eat a little bad food than overeat good food. Overeating is a sam mavet. So if I had to ask you, what does the Rambam define as a poison for the body? It's overeating. Yeah? And now he's going to quote Shlomo HaMelech. So he's kind of like, I'm not giving you anything new over here. Even King Solomon, the wisest of all men, agrees with what I'm saying. And the King Solomon is going to say, you know, people are very careful with what comes out of their mouth, i.e., what they say, how they say it, and speaking lashon hara, but you also have to be careful what goes into your mouth. What you eat, how much you eat, when you eat, where you eat, right? That's important too. Who? Sheshlomo Amar, as even the great Shlomo, b'chachmato, with his great wisdom, shomer piv uloshana, you should guard your mouth and your tongue. Why the double expression, mouth and tongue? Shomer mitzvah nafsho, will be guarding their body, their soul from tzarot, from challenges. Klomar, shomer piv. What does a mouth connote as opposed to a tongue? What does a tongue refer to? What you say, right? This is your lashon, as in lashon hara. Watch what you say. And shomer piv means watch what you eat. You eat with your mouth. Shomer piv melachol machara. Don't eat bad foods, right? And only speak about things that are good and not bad. So Shlomo Melech actually puts them together. Your mouth is a two-way street. I don't mean when you overdrink, right? You get drunk and end up, letting everything else come out of the mouth. No. He means what you say and what you eat. That is the mouth. Okay? So that's the Rambam quoting King Solomon from the book of Proverbs, Mishlei, chapter 21, verse 23. Okay? And this is the guarantee of the Rambam. Whoever conducts themselves in this way, which we said, he says, I'm going to give you a guarantee. Now, these are broad shoulders, he's saying, but he is going to add a caveat at the end, so don't get too excited, that if you follow everything I've told you, you won't become ill. Illness is a result of bad food, is a result of overeating, of bad sleep, and I'm going to add to this, smoking, which according to any doctor is like the worst thing, and even the e-cigarettes that have gained tremendous popularity, especially the Jewish world. You always see these Jewish boys walking around like girl like on the the shmefa. That is really bad, right? But smoking is the worst thing you can do. But I had my father, who should live and be well, needed a valve put into his heart. He had a bicuspid valve. Right? He needed but do you know what they used to replace the valve? A pig valve. I know there was some show someone told, I never saw it. They said, well, what? Yes, it's complete drivel. You're absolutely allowed to use a pig valve. It's a mitzvah to use a pig valve because the body, it always catches with the body. It's interesting why it's a pig. You can use a bovine or a mechanical one. Bovine's good. It's totally mutar to use it in order to, so that's totally okay and appropriate. Anyway, so I went to the doctor because my wife thought, well, if your father's got it, you have it too. It's not, doctor told me, it's not generational. There's nothing, what's the word? Genetic, thank you so much. It's not genetic. Anyway, my wife, had to make sure. So I went to and he was examining me. This was a cardiologist in Manhattan, examining me, and he's like, so do you smoke? I was like, no. And while he was doing the thing of my heart, what's it called? The EKG, what's it when they look at it? They do you actually get to see your heart on a screen. It's a pretty freaky experience. So when he's doing that, he's like, well, I see you don't smoke because I see, sometimes when I go through, I see it gets murky inside there, like the smoke. And while he's doing this, I could smell smoke. I'm like, do you smoke? He goes, yeah, I do. I was like, what? You're like the cardiologist. Are you crazy? He goes, I started smoking when I was in medical school. I couldn't give it up. He said to me, you hear this? You're like, there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. That's that really proves it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Speaking of knowledge and wisdom, so how do we explain how the Rambam can say that if you follow these guidelines, you will become sick?
Okay, he's going to add the caveats coming.
But are we saying that this is all like Ruach HaKodesh knowledge? Or
No. This is not Ruach HaKodesh. The Rambam is not speaking the Ruach HaKodesh. I mean, there's a tradition that all Rishonim have Ruach HaKodesh. No, he's saying based upon his observations and what he learned. We don't know. He didn't source the Mishnah Torah. He wrote the Mishnah Torah as a compendium of all Jewish law and life without sources because he wanted to be read by the average Jew. By the way, when he wrote it, he's actually the only person in world history that ever gave us the entire Talmud and Torah into law. Isn't that crazy? Right? Is that crazy? He's the only person who ever did that. By the way, he's also the only one who gave us Hilchot Mashiach. We're going to study the laws of Mashiach only from the Rambam. Isn't that crazy? He's the only one that ever did. So where does he glean this information from? You're going to have to say, I don't know, that it comes from the Gemara. I'm not such a big Talmud Chacham, but I've seen many of these ideas referencing the Gemara, basically sleep and stuff, but from his own practice, he was actually a doctor to the Sultan of Egypt. By the way, you know why? He actually put him in charge of all of his wives. And he was the only person he trusted. Being the doctor, he knew he wouldn't abuse any of them. So he made the Rambam his chief doctor to the Sultan.
We see that a lot of these rules stand true today with the
Yes, I believe they all do, yeah.
science that we have now. But
Yeah.
at the time, it wasn't as advanced.
Oh, I'm sure this was revolutionary. Half of this stuff has just come to light recently.
So it was
Right.
just his observation.
Yes, I believe a lot of it comes from his own personal medical observations. By the way, he wrote a lot more than this. This is just what ended up in the Mishnah Torah. There are other books, which is translated actually by a YU rabbi, a Dr. Rabbi Rosner, I think his name is. I have a whole bunch of them at home somewhere, locked up somewhere, some bookshelf that goes through many, many more details of remedies and stuff. Whether they all apply today, we don't know. Okay? Anyway, the general principles apply, and they still apply today, yeah. He says, you do this, you won't become ill, you'll reach an advanced age, and you'll die at the right time, right? You'll hardly need a doctor. Your body will remain intact, okay? And you can rely upon this. However, some people are impaired from birth, right? Because there are still genetics. I guess that was his way of saying some people were genetically made in a certain way. And by the way, even if genetically made a certain way, a person could genetically be, 6 foot according to genetics, but if they're malnourished, they'll only be 5 foot. So the way even genetics can be pushed aside or improved upon based upon how you conduct yourself. Okay? He says all these habits which we have apply only to a healthy person. He says if you're sick, okay, and we learn this out from a pasuk in the Torah, you don't say, oh, God will take care of me and he's going to heal me. No, we don't believe that. We say, well, we do believe that, but you have to do your effort, and it's a mitzvah, right? To go to a doctor in order to get the most highest level medicine and treatment available, and ultimately God is the ultimate healer. Hopefully he'll work through that particular doctor. But if a person, he says, has been eating unhealthy their entire life, or smoking, or not exercising, he says, well, this healthful lifestyle is not going to help them that much. They're still going to have to do, the advice of the doctor and take medications, okay, which he doled out, but not at the rate that they're doled out today. Okay. Questions, thoughts, comments? Yeah.
I don't know if they had this back then, but what do you think he would say about like melatonin or things that aid you in some of that?
That's a very interesting question. So he does talk about the importance of sleep, and that's why he says don't eat too before you sleep. Getting sleep is a mitzvah. From my chavruta and good friend is a doctor anesthesiologist, and there are good medications and bad medications. I don't really lump them all together, but sleep medications, which are extremely popular, generally speaking, are not great medications. They're not so good for you, and a person should try not to rely upon them. If you need it, you need it, Melatonin is more of a natural one. I think one of my kids took melatonin to aid it. It's more of a natural thing, but generally speaking, sleep meds, not great. Not great. You should not rely upon them. But you should speak to your doctor. I'm not a doctor. You should speak to your doctors about that. But if you need it, you need it. You should try your utmost to try to fix your sleep through natural means. Yeah. All right? Okay. So that's the Rambam. So the Rambam was a doctor, as we said, and he followed more of a rationalist approach. We're going to look at the Ramban now, and this we're going to see is a famous, and the Ramban, I should add, was a Kabbalist. He was not a doctor, a very great rabbi, actually probably one of the greatest Kabbalists that we have known. A lot of his commentary and thoughts and teachings were from Kabbalah. But I put it over here because it's going to tie into what the Rambam said and take a very important aspect of how we treat our bodies and see how you treat your body really impacts the soul in a much deeper way. So let's look at this very famous Ramban, and it is found in the Parsha of Kedoshim. If you look in the Torah Parsha Kedoshim, this Ramban Nachmanides can be found, and over here the Rambam is going to talk about the mitzvah of being holy. Okay? There is a mitzvah to be holy. Well, how do you do it? So comes along a very famous machloket, dispute between Rashi and the Ramban, precisely how to fulfill this mitzvah. And actually, based upon this discussion, we're going to see which one of them tells us that this mitzvah to be holy is actually one of the 613 commandments. Because according to one of them, it is, and according to one of them, it isn't. Okay, so what's it based upon? So it's based upon on a pasuk in the Torah, which is Kadoshim to you. You should be kadosh, holy. What does the word holy actually mean? What does the word kadosh actually mean? Yeah,
Separate.
very good. The word kadosh, kadoshim is plural, means separate, apart, sometimes elevated, but not necessarily, and sometimes lowly. To separate things out. That's why a holy person is called kadosh, but also people involved in some very bad actions, right, are called kadeshim. Prostitutes, for example, have that word. Weird, the same word would apply. But they say because it means separate, apart, distinct, not the same. A person can separate themselves for good things, or they can separate themselves for licentiousness. Good word, bad thing. Okay, so let's have a look at the Rambam. The Rambam's opinion is going to differ from Rashi. Rashi's opinion on how to fulfill this mitzvah of Kedoshim Tiyu is going to be staying away from sin. Okay? Separating, I don't bring the Rashi down, I'm doing it outside. Separating yourself from bad things, averot, sin. Every time you don't do an avera, you don't do one of the 365 sins in the Torah, you are separating yourself from those sins and you're becoming holy. That's Rashi, a very famous and classic Rashi on Kedoshim Tiyu. Okay, so how to be holy? Stay away from bad stuff. Okay, we could leave it then. But the Rambam disagrees. He's like, no, doesn't make sense. Staying away from sins doesn't make you holy. Staying away from sins makes you Jewish. I mean, that's the whole point of being Jewish. It doesn't give you any special status. According to Rashi, is being holy a mitzvah in the Torah? No. According to Rashi, is being holy a mitzvah in the Torah? No. It's the result of not doing sins. It's not a mitzvah in of itself. It's the consequence. It's the result of not sinning. You become holy. The Ramban actually is going to teach us, no. It is actually a positive mitzvah, and he lists it among his version of the 613 mitzvot. Well, what do I do? How do I do it according to the Ramban? So he says, it's like this. He says, a person who is able to control their desires, how much they eat, how much they sleep, how much they drink, if you're able to moderate your behavior, as he's going to call it, separate from the permitted, that's how you become holy. It's the exact opposite of Rashi. Rashi's like, stay away from sin, you become holy. He's like, no, that makes you Jew. He's like, you know how to become holy? Stay away from things that are mutar. When you moderate your desires, you moderate your desires for food, drink, sex, any excess, he says you become holy. Moderation, says the Ramban, is what gives you the special, and when you do that, you're actually fulfilling your own mitzvah, which means a person could have the kosherest pizza made from holy dough. The cheese is Chalav Yisrael, came from a Jewish cow, and the tomatoes were picked by a holy Jewish woman in it, I don't know, right? And it was made to the highest standards of kashrut. When you make a bracha, you eat it, you're doing a mitzvah. Says the Ramban, yeah, but if you eat too much of it, you're actually transgressing a positive mitzvah, which is Kedoshim Tiyu, moderating your behavior and your desires. You can have the most kosher wine in the entire world, but when you overdrink, right, you make a bracha on a cup of wine, you're doing a mitzvah, but when you drink the whole bottle, he says you're transgressing another positive mitzvah, which is Kedoshim Tiyu, to be holy. So it's two opposites in terms of Rashi and the Rambam. That's the machloket. And that's how the mitzvah to be holy could actually be a positive mitzvah in the Torah. Let's have a look inside. He says, Imke, Yimsa Baal Tava, a person has strong desires, a person is subject to desires, finds an allowance to overly be indulgent in marital relations or drunkenness or gluttony. right? And to speak whatever they want about most disgusting things. That, he says, is not a prohibition mentioned. It doesn't say in the Torah, don't overeat, don't overdrink. It doesn't say that. He's like, but it does. It's encapsulated in this mitzvah. He says, a person could be, and here's the very famous expression which you need to write down in the Hebrew and the English if you need to. A person could be a naval. Just write it down, I'll translate it. A naval bereshut HaTorah. A person could be a naval. A naval comes from the word nevela, which is a disgusting thing. A person could be a disgusting person with the reshut of the Torah, with the Torah's permission. What? You could follow the Torah to the letter of the law, but at the same time, you're being a disgusting individual by overeating and overdrinking and all the other excesses that a person could do, which according to the Torah would be permitted. But you're transgressing something. What's that? Being holy. So that's the Rambam. That's his very, very famous expression. A person should not be a naval, but a reshut HaTorah. Be a disgusting person with the permission. The Torah permits it. He's like, actually it doesn't. It seems like it does, but it's saying it's forbidden. You should moderate your desires.
Wait, so if it's saying that the Torah doesn't really permit these things?
Yeah. It's saying it would, on face value, it would seem as though the Torah permits these things, right? Because the Torah doesn't say, the Torah says eat kosher. It doesn't say you can't get away with eating 9 pizza pies. It doesn't say that. He's like, you're right. A person that does that, however, is transgressing something because there is a mitzvah in the Torah, which is to be holy, which means to moderate your behavior. He's defining that the Torah does that. It's possible that a person may see themselves as, well, I'm doing everything I'm going to do. It doesn't say I can't get wasted every single night, right? Or take drugs. It doesn't say in the Torah I can't smoke. Although there is another mitzvah to guard your body from doing bad things to it. But he's saying even permitted things. The Torah permits eating. But the Torah also says you have to moderate those desires.
But according to Rashi, let's say, Rashi doesn't say that it's a mitzvah.
He doesn't.
But if you follow the letter of the law, isn't the innate purpose of Torah to make you a better person?
Yes. The innate purpose of the Torah makes you a better person. Where does Rashi get it from? I don't know. I'll tell you where the Rambam gets it from. He says it gets it from here. Maybe the Rashi seems to be common sense. As they say, what's the sixth book of the Torah? Have common sense. But the Ramban is listing it as one of the 613 mitzvot. That's the extraordinary part. So every time you don't overindulge, you're actually doing a mitzvah, according to the Ramban. It's pretty cool.
Can you translate this?
Naval is a disgusting thing. Bereshut, it comes with a navala, yeah. Like a dead animal that's found on the street is a nevela. So it's naval, bereshut Torah, a disgusting person with the permission of the Torah. He's like, that's what you may see. I can eat whatever I want, as much as I want. Okay, as long as it's kosher, I get that. He said, no, it's more than just kosher. That's what the Ramban is saying. Therefore, lefikach, the Ramban is very into this. He finds extra pesukim in the Torah which help you. He says elsewhere that a person could actually go through life following the letter of the law and still be very, very mean and nasty, right? Because the Torah cannot enumerate every circumstance, every trial. Nowhere in the Torah does it say you should, greet the security guard when you walk in, or you should hold the elevator open when someone's running towards it. Right? It doesn't say that. But he says you're going to have to, it's common sense. Based upon the other psukim in the Torah, you can learn out that it involves every circumstance that the person encounters. He says, therefore, the Torah enumerates that things are completely prohibited. It added a general injunction to desist from excess. And by doing so, you become holy. That's how to become kadosh. Okay? Curb your mouth and tongue from excessive eating and from foul speech until a person reaches the level of what he called, well, it's actually called perishut. Perishut is separation. Okay? Even the amount you say, right? And how you speak. That also needs to be worked on, yeah? And that's the Ramban. That's how to be mekadesh atzmacha b'mutalach. Mekadesh atzmacha, make yourself holy, b'mutalach, with things that are permitted to you. Good. So that's the Rambam, and that's the Ramban, coming from different worlds, but kind of like meeting in the middle. That's the way it works. Questions, thoughts, comments? This class went faster than it usually does. Yeah.
Can you just repeat the phrase and the translation again?
So he says a person should makadesh atz macha ba mutar lach. He says you should make yourself holy by, the way to do that is by doing things that are permitted to you, not which are forbidden to you. Because that's a given. But holiness comes from an extra layer of moderation in all of our desires, which we already discussed is a constant battle. That's the milchama that we discussed last class of the Ramchal and the Kli Yakar. Yeah.
Is that quote the thing
That's the Rambam.
The Ramban?
Ramban. Kadeshas b'chava mutalach.
That's his.
I think so.
Statement.
Yeah. Here comes the Gemara. I don't know. I don't remember it, but I know that he quotes that a few times. I had a head of my yeshiva who was very into the Ramban, and he once made me go through every single Hashkafa Ramban and gave me a book and then tested me on it. That was when I was a good student. Yeah. Questions, thoughts, comments, health, exercise, running, pickleball. All right, so the next part is a whole lengthy discussion. We're going to jump back into the soul next class. And we'll discuss it then. Just someone please remind me next class, because I didn't write it down. If there's someone going to remind me next class. One second, two things. One second, slow down. Number one, we need to discuss how body and soul actually reflect each other. Someone write that down to remind me about that. That's a very important analogy I want to give you. If you haven't paid for your course books, please do. And there will be no remote instruction from me this semester. There are a few in your calendar which are remote instruction. I don't do remote instruction anymore. I still have PTSD from COVID, so that's not happening. So if you see it in the calendar as a remote, there's no class. Good? Yeah, remind me that next class. I didn't mention that. Sounds very important. Have a great day, friends. Be successful. Kol tov. Yalla bye.